Okay, another episode of the YRJ Podcast. Guys, you're welcome today. This is the YRJ Podcast where we help Canadians build wealth through real estate. This is Nasser.
My name is Joe.
Mr. Joe, how's it going?
I mean, you sound a little bit quiet and you're not a gentle guy.
Why are you coming?
I mean, is it your new status that is giving you some new vibe?
Why are you coming for me at the start?
But I noticed you didn't have your face cap today. What's going on?
What face cap?
I'm sure my audience are wondering, like, who's this new person? You look like a new person entirely. You're always wearing face cap.
No, I just wanted to know that. I wanted to see the board.
The money is there, right?
Amen. Amen.
Okay. You're welcome again today.
Yes,
so what are we talking about? Tell me what are we giving? What are we serving? Let's have it hot sauce.
I guess for today, we're looking at our beloved, 40% of Canadians, I would say, are renting a property.
Yeah.
Right. I say that because I saw a statistic that's mentioned that about 60% of Canadians own their own home.
Homes, yeah.
So today we're just touching on the 40 that are renters who are obviously going to be future homeowners
Absolutely.
at some point. But I think they need some value because this is your real estate journey, and renting is definitely a key part of that journey.
Yeah.
Right? It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
So
But does everybody need to buy? I mean, not everybody needs to buy. Some people can
Exactly.
choose to.
Yeah.
I mean, get into. I think we spoke about that in the last episode about investment, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people even if not just investing, because of some people's careers, say you're a pilot or you're a traveling nurse or something, buy might not make the most sense for you.
Yeah.
So you might just want to just continue renting and then living that lavish lifestyle.
What's that thing called in English? Or people that are always moving up and down.
What nomads? Or
Nomadic lifestyle. Yeah.
So today you're in Canada, tomorrow you're in Mexico, you're in Miami, you're in Lagos, Nigeria. So what's the essence of buying? You can still buy and use it for something else.
But in terms of having to be like a primary home,
exactly, might not be worth your time.
Yeah.
So the rental journey in Canada, the rental journey is a journey
because people always it's always a question,
right?
Most time for rentals, why is it that people? So okay, let me say, so we kind of feel discriminated, right? And we can't rule that away, right?
Absolutely,
for whatever reason, right?
There. Mm-hmm.
Or some people just feel like they just don't want to give me a house.
It's so difficult.
They don't want to give me a house. So we're gonna be. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it's really so difficult, or is it just because certain things are not probably done, or some things are not done the way they should be done?
I mean, in all honesty, it can be difficult. And I think the thing that makes it difficult is, so let's start from the tenant's perspective.
Okay.
Right? You're a tenant, you are looking for a property. The question I always ask the tenants is, number one, what documents do you have? We have a checklist that we run our tenants through, right? And the reason why I start with that is because over time we've seen that the more documentation you have, the easier it makes the process, and it's not like a short.
Is it the more real documentation or just documentation?
We'll get there.
Because we've seen things. Right?
I know. So I'll say, okay, the more documentation you have in terms of, and what I'm by documentation, number one, your identification cards, driver's license, passports, things like that. Number two, your credit report, right? Assuming you've already been in Canada for a while. Right, and even though you haven't as well, this is a trick, a tip. You can actually get a international credit report as well. Number three, your employment letter. It's so important because, again, if you are thinking from a landlord's perspective, you want to rent a property. Well, the question is, how are you going to pay for the property that you're renting from me, right? So how are you going to pay?
But if you don't pay, I can easily evict you. Just throw your things out of the way.
I wish it was that easy in Canada. It is not that easy. I will touch on that. It's not that simple. So obviously the employment letter and then the pay stubs, not just the employment, which is to show how much you've been, how much is coming in, right? And then what else? If you have savings, beautiful. That's amazing.
Might be a good way to just show that you have some, large funds available.
Exactly. That there's money. Money is water. So landlord, don't worry. Calm down.
It's plenty. Right?
So you need that as well. So that's the hiccups people face is that number one, people don't have accurate documentation, right?
Absolutely.
Or let's say you're working, and it's understandable, right? You're working like a cash job, or you're doing like Uber or Lyft, and some of these things don't really have that predictability of income. So the question is, okay, how do those people now get a property? Because not everyone works a 9-to-5 job. So that's what I think is the.
But you know what?
Something
point. That just to kind of rebuff that some way or share more light on that. Recently, one of the properties that I leased, there was a guy, because sometimes people kind of feel like the stronger your income, the kind of like if you're a tech baddie or if you're a tech person,
a tech bro.
there's a chances for you. I mean, you have a higher chance of being
because they
considered.
they have great income.
However, I mean, just to show the dynamics of how things can play out. One of the property that I just leased for a client, the client wasn't interested in people that work in tech.
Why not?
And they said it because of the whole market right now that they can easily get laid off.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, that he doesn't want like I mean, because I shared a couple of profile of people and it was like, you know what, I'd rather prefer someone that works in a real estate company as an administrator as against someone that is an engineer or a tech, whatever area of specialty of tech they are in, right? Because his concern was that they get laid off easily.
I mean, that was your client's preference, and ultimately we're representing the client. So I mean, what can you do? What can you see after that? Client.
And to be honest, thinking about, I mean, I never even saw that person. For me, the tech person was like a person of interest to me,
right?
Because I felt like high income,
exactly.
And I was looking at it from just one perspective of working in tech. I'm not looking at the downside of it, which is the fact that, I mean, currently the market is not in their favor.
Right.
And doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon unless, I mean, policies changes that enables businesses to be more innovative around how they use technology and all that, right? So eventually we didn't go with that person.
So who did you go with? I mean, I'm actually interested.
When someone that was doing like Uber, like ancillary, professionals.
Oh, really? So it wasn't really like a 9 to 5
No, it wasn't a 9 to 5
very
person. It was more of a business person. Because it felt like, with a business person, I kind of feel more comfortable.
So that's the funny thing, because with a business person, I've been burnt.
Yeah.
On the business person. So I remember putting a business person into the landlord's property, and actually he was a problem tenant.
Who's a problem tenant?
A problem tenant is a tenant that brings you problems. So he came in, he paid like the first 2-3 months. And then, but I think he kind of like had a little bit of his, and that's the thing as well. Not everyone which is what I realized, right, guys? Please pay attention. Not everybody is cut out to be a landlord.
Yeah.
As well. I find that people like the idea of
so
it.
So it's like it's a calling, Abby.
Honestly, I think because there's a certain level of patience you need to have.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of understanding, because you need to understand that you are. See, when you become when you're a landlord, you've gone from. This is no longer, I own the property. This is not, you're now a service provider.
Absolutely.
And you have to treat, this is what I believe, and it's what I always educate landlords on. You have to now start treating your so-called tenants as their customers.
Yeah.
If the customer is not getting good
service. They're the one paying.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not, because if you think about it, right, also they're humans, so they're thinking to themselves, I'm paying this rent and I'm paying your mortgage for you.
Yeah.
And it's a human feeling to feel
absolutely.
that way.
Because, they know where the money is going to for sure.
Exactly. So you can't now come and just, because I have landlords I always want to, and I think that landlord fell in that category where she kind of like always wanted to like bring the hammer down, like pay your rent. And I'm like, no, this is not how you deal with people. You need to be very, very empathetic towards the person. This was during the pandemic as well. Right, so I think he felt like she was hammering on him, and that's not an excuse not to pay your rent. But,
absolutely.
But there's a way I would have handled it. But the landlord didn't bring me in at that point, because after we listed out, we went out. Okay, this is the landlord, this is the tenant. Have a great tenancy period. But then 3 months or 4 months down, I start getting phone calls that they are having issues because they already started clashing and stuff like that. So, but he was a business owner to the point, and I guess he was into like a mobile car wash or something.
Okay,
and then COVID, people are not moving as much now. So I guess his business took like a hit, and then he started having issues with the rent. So, yeah.
And I think, for this particular client, one of the things that kind of like, strengthened the profile was the fact that they own a property.
Okay.
Right. So that property.
You should have mentioned. You should have started with that.
No, I have to just give you. It's small. I have to be giving you the gist small.
Okay.
Right. So there was that part of it that kind of like strengthened their profile.
Okay.
But again, for me, it was the client perspective of saying, no, I don't want someone that works in this sector right now. Which typically you assume that it's supposed to be an area of interest for people.
That's a very, very high level landlord.
It's a very intelligent. But it was like, no, I don't want this kind of person.
Right.
I rather prefer someone that's kind of into business.
Right.
And then I can even say the business kind of like Uber business is kind of like something that's
here for the long run.
It's always going to be right. And they kind of feel like there's some responsibility that comes with. And there's always this thing about people preferring people that are married with kids.
Which is against the law.
Yeah, absolutely. It's against the law, right? I think it's just the human sentiment. Based on, and again, I mean, it's easy for us to say it's against the law. The question is, what are the government doing to give the confidence to landlord to say, you know what, if I don't want to be discriminatory, right? Then, I mean, make sure that if I decide to close my eyes and give my house to anybody, if I want to get them out tomorrow, if they're not paying the rent, I should be able to do it.
Yeah, that's a battle that we're currently fighting in the industry for sure. Yeah, the landlord and tenant tribunal is not helping its issues at all. Because every time landlords see news reports, oh, this tenant has been in property for 24 months, for 2 years, they haven't paid rent, and the homeowner has a mortgage to pay, right? So that definitely, so that's why I empathize with landlords the most, because and that's why we have these processes where it's kind of like, it's not like we don't want to give the tenant the property.
That's kind of very picky because they know the stress.
You have to get someone to go through that process to know, to make sure that you're putting the right person in your property. Because if you put the wrong person in the property, it can be a big thing. I mean, people have lost houses to the bank because they put the wrong tenant in there. Yeah,
and it doesn't mean things can't go wrong. Like, even if you do all your due diligence and you get the right person, along the way, you don't have a control, right? There's always what we call the natural course of events that just happen. But people lost their job.
Exactly.
Things just happen along the way, and it's taking them like forever to find another job, right?
But if you have a good person will always still show up.
Yeah.
Even if they're owing you for 2 months, they'll make that up, or they'll find a way.
I mean, it won't be like they just feel like, I'm sorry, because I know that I'm a tenant. I know what the tribunal right now is not effective.
Right.
So you can't do anything, right?
Professional tenants.
Yeah. So it's always, so I think which is why landlord kind of get a little bit concerned and a little bit like picky about. So it's not like they're discriminating. But like example I give about people that prefer married couple with kids, and I think the reason is because they kind of feel like there's some sort of responsibility. I think there's a kind of like a cliche. There's an image of someone that is married with kids that people just wear on to be like, okay, I believe a married man or woman with kids will be very, very responsible, right?
In paying the rent, yes.
In paying the rent, and and because they know that at the end of the day, what if the tribunal picks up? They probably throw you out of the.
And you don't want your kids.
And you don't want that kind of experience. So they kind of feel like there's that. It's not like it's all cast in stone, but it's just, like we say, just do what you can do.
Right.
Like there's certain things that you don't have control over. Like we said, people can lose their job. But what did you do to be sure the person is even viable in the first instance? If they didn't lose their job, they won't default.
Yeah.
People don't want to take advantage of the tenants, the lag in the tenant tribunal, and just want to play around with it. Yeah.
So for the ones you mentioned about families, right? I would say, yes, a family might be more consistent with paying the rent, which is the most important thing to the landlord. But there's also the part of taking care of the property, especially if they have like kids in the house. Kids can write on the wall.
But I will fall back to the agreement, which is that we're going to get that. We're going to get into.
But they can damage it regardless of an agreement. They can still damage the wall.
But is that not why we have agreement to say you have to keep the house in the same condition in which you made the house?
What if they don't?
So tell me about it. So what if they don't? What happens actually? So
what do you do?
I move into a brand new condo.
Right.
So we're not trying to encourage you to do. We're just trying to like open up some stuff.
Right.
So I move into a brand new condo. In my agreement, I mean, I will always have all the clauses.
Yes.
That says, you have to keep the property in good condition as met, keep it clean, understand. What if a tenant damaged the wall, probably the kids, written stuff on the wall, but is that not why we hold to the last month rent?
Yes, but tenants have obviously found a way around that. In terms of, like, for instance, if you're renting from July last year to July this year,
okay,
you're moving out in June. So what tenants would do is ultimately they won't pay the rent for June because that's their last month.
Yeah.
Right. And then by the time you're going in there, so you don't have any last month to basically hold on to say, okay, this is I want to use this money for damages done to the units, and then they move out end of the month. So, but what I would say is to prevent that, and most landlords don't do this. This is why you got to have the right people on your team, right? The key thing is to don't keep the inspections to like the last minute when they're moving out.
Yeah.
So you have to. I know it can be stressful, it can be bothersome, but you have to insist on doing a quarterly inspection on the property.
As a matter of fact, that's what I have.
Yeah.
I did that. I mean, in the clause for that guy I was talking about.
Yeah, we have to do that.
We have to have it there. Like the landlord, will be coming every quarter to inspect.
But I hope it goes, because people we always have it, but landlords don't go.
Well, at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's a reasonable thing for us to do. Right? Is then up to them.
Yes. So I'm saying landlords, please go.
To be more. I mean, please go, because you'll be amazed. You'll be shocked at the way, the condition of the house.
Yeah, because you want to catch, and it's so funny, and so some tenants are just very funny in the sense that they can see, like you can see clearly that there's mold like developing somewhere. It's just a simple phone call to the landlord. You're not the one fixing it. Just call the landlord to say, oh, I'm seeing this on the wall, or I'm seeing and then they can repair that. Because if it gets out of hand, then it now becomes a bigger issue than it needs to be, right? So that quarterly inspection would help you catch things that can end up becoming very detrimental to the property. And because this is an asset that you spent hundreds of thousands on.
I'm laughing.
Why?
I just remember. So I think last month I took a client to view some property.
Okay.
And then the listing says the property is, I'm sure you probably would have seen this. I'm just trying to understand, why is it like that? Property will be listed as 2+1. Or no, they'll say 2-bed. Let me give you an example. They'll say 2-bed.
You told me this story.
So we had one. 2-bed. We felt excited, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the picture, we couldn't really get to know, to say, we just assumed that, okay, it's 2-bed. We saw rooms, because again, they're taking pictures from different angles, right?
Right.
We got to the property, and I was looking for the second room.
What do you mean you're looking for the second room? We're not 2 bedrooms.
That's my perspective. That's my thought.
Right.
That's my assumption, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was looking out for. Then we got there. We started looking left, right, and center. So we saw the first room.
One room was missing.
And I'm like, let's check the address. Are we sure we're in the right address? I checked, went back to the listing. 2-bed. So I called the agent to say, hey, I'm the agent. I booked the showing for your property.
Right.
So and so. He said, yeah. I said, do you want to clarify? I'm in the bed. He said, yeah, it's 2-bed. I'm like, I said, I'm right inside the property. And all I can see is 1. I can't even see +1. I can't even see a den. He said, oh, there's another room that's it's rectangular in size. And I'm like,
and where was this room located? Where was it?
In the living room.
Okay.
And she was like, well, actually, I didn't go to the property.
I was about to say that agent probably never visited that property.
I didn't visit the property.
She just took the landlord.
I spoke to the landlord. We had a video call, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand the kind of agent, right? We don't do that, right? You have to have a physical visitation. You have to see.
I was going to say that she probably didn't
and
go
then
there.
it was kind of embarrassing for me. But luckily for me, the client is a kind of like a friend.
Yeah, that relationship
so they
already.
could understand.
Yeah.
I could imagine if it was just like someone that I spent time pitching to,
They'll
trying
be like,
to win over.
This Rito Dre is not serious.
Probably you don't have your heart together.
Yeah,
right? Because
that can be
it's a complete waste of time. Imagine somebody driving all the way from the west to the east
to see
a 1
plus quarter.
To see a 1 plus quarter, not even a 1+1, right? So I'm very towards let's do better.
Yeah, let's do better.
Let's do better. All right, because we have to help one another. Because that would have been a bad experience, for me, if it wasn't for the relationship with the client, right? But I feel like, somebody just kind of very impatient. I probably just feel like you wasted my time all the way. I tell him that you're calling somebody, and you're not supposed to have. Then before you know, you probably kind of be like, it's gonna be on you.
It's always on you.
Like probably you didn't look at the listing properly.
Exactly,
probably I'm like, okay, thank God.
Thank God it didn't go that way. Yeah, I hear what you say.
So what's been your hottest experience you've had with rental?
Do you mean in terms of representing the landlord or representing a tenant?
But like the weirdest experience you've ever had.
Okay, the weirdest one I've ever had is representing the landlord. This was a property in Whitby.
Don't say the one I want to sell.
No, I don't. I'm not sure if it's the same one.
Okay.
But this was it's not the same one. So this particular property, right? There were 2 floors. It was like a duplex or 2-unit thing. In fact, the landlord had plans to take down the entire property
and then redesign
and then redevelop the land. Was the plan?
Okay, the entire product. Okay, I was thinking because the
it was one of those like vinyl kind of structures and stuff like that. So they just put people in there, but they put the people there before I even represented them, right? And so I was the one that was handling the management of tenants and stuff like that. And this is why I realized this very, very crucial role. The quality of your tenant, of your property, more often than not, would dictate the quality of tenants you get.
Yes, sir.
So the quality of the property would dictate the quality of tenants you get, because now they got these guys in, and these guys are doing all sorts of things in the property. Like you do not want to know. Like think of the worst things that can be done in the property. They were being done on that property.
I hope they were not growing.
Okay, they were not growing. They were not growing weed in the property. No, they were not doing that. But they were smoking weed in the property for sure. They did that, and so we ended up getting an eviction notice for these two tenants. One was on the upper floor, one was on the lower floor, but they were like buddies, they were friends or whatever. We got one out, and I made this mistake, and this is a tip for somebody. Once we got the sheriff to come out to take them out, the sheriff took the first guy out and locked the doors, because that's what they locked the door. The guy at the bottom, he begged because he was an older guy, right?
Okay.
And again, we have to, have that empathy for older people. But now I'm tougher now.
Are you sure?
I think I am, because I've seen that, and I'll tell you why. Because after he begged, because we could have taken him out there and then, but he begged because an older man. We're like, can't throw an old person into the, you get, the other person was like a younger person, so we expected he'll figure himself out.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then we didn't take the older man out, so because he now ended up paying the backlog of rent.
Backlog, okay.
After
So that means he had the money.
I don't know the situation with finances, but I know after he paid that backlog, then he stopped paying again.
Okay.
For another like 6 months.
Okay.
So he stopped paying, and then we had to go through the process of getting the sheriff to come out again to now take him out the second time. So we should have just trusted our guts, and I believe I told the landlord as well, but the landlord also had that sentiment, like he's an older person. Just get them out, because even after getting them out, you won't imagine that they broke into the property again just to pick up their stuff. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy in the streets.
I mean, probably people need to pray and fast before they actually lease out that property.
Yeah. So imagine that kind of landlord now renting the property to the next person. How do you think they will take the process going into the next property? They're very super strict.
Wow.
Setting laws, do a credit check.
Absolutely.
In fact, they don't even want your own credit reports.
They want to pull their own credit. I mean, that's how serious
Right.
people can get.
Yeah,
right?
because they've been burnt before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And people have had terrible experiences.
absolutely.
With tenants, like you said, people having to lose their property because the tenant couldn't pay the rent, they couldn't get the tenant out of the house, in litigation.
And the bank doesn't really care who you.
That's not their business.
That's not their problem, right? So yeah.
And even get more complex, probably you're not being honest at the time of a transaction with the bank to say it wasn't a rental property, probably claimed to be a single, family use, and then it's a rental property. There's no way. I mean, as far as they're concerned, that I'm even saying. I mean, for the one that probably they even knew that was an investment property, there could be some conversation. But the one that is even worse is the fact that you even told them it's a single family use, right? Like your primary residence.
Right.
And unfortunately,
You're
you're using it for rental. I'm
right.
sure they want to cancel your mortgage like immediately.
Because you lied on the application, yeah.
So my weirdest experience, like I didn't get to know how desperate people can go to falsify documents, like to get fake documents.
Yeah.
So I had this client I was representing. So I was the buyer's tenant,
Right.
in this case. And
you're representing the tenants in getting.
we call them buyers. Yeah. So, and then I was kind of very empathetic with them. They told, which is why we tried to be very empathetic.
Okay, I know,
right?
And I remember.
And then told me, they bought a house. I drove all the way, almost about 20-30 minutes to meet up with them. It sounded so sweet and all that. And then did inspection. Can I see your document? And start out the story. This person is my. Okay, I don't know if I want to say it off the record. This person is my father's boyfriend. Why are you going to believe it? I'm kind of surprised you didn't come with your mother's boyfriend, rather. You didn't come with your mother, you come with your mother's boyfriend.
Right.
You're going to be living in the house together. That's fine. That's not really none of my business, right? All I just want to see is the documentation for the house. And then she told me they just sold a house in Toronto.
Okay.
Right? That I could check it up and see all of those things. Like, they're downsizing because...
So did you check it?
Even from the story,
Right.
From the story, you can see. Why would someone tell you that you're selling a property, you want to come and rent? It's not like you're leaving the city to a different city, just some few, kilometers away, and because you want to find a better school for your children. I'm like,
it's still possible.
like
benefit
of doubt. I guess that's what I'm saying. I was listening. I'm kind of like, okay, maybe for children, people would go all the way and do whatever they want to do.
They don't stay in the same.
They want to stay in the
so they don't
same
have to change
same
schools.
community.
That makes sense.
And then credit reports, everything was doctored.
Oof.
The same way I'm caught in his eye.
How do you know it was doctored though? How do you know it was a fake one?
I knew it was a fake one, right? So I took another credit score. Another credit Equifax report.
Right.
I started looking at the pages. It was more like I was doing a forensic analysis.
They've turned realtors to investigating.
And I was reading every fine print of how does the E on this document look like on the E here? How does the A look like on the A here?
Yeah, great agent. You went through all the
and I started seeing that it wasn't hard enough. I was looking at some pages that should come with a full, credit report was missing.
Right.
And then that got me to look further into the other documents that they had. So let's go into the employment documents. I called the employer. The number went to someone. Apparently happens to be a friend.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess, of course, you have to just be very, very smart about this thing, right? I didn't call at the time when they were prepared to receiving the call. Probably during the day when they were. I called in the evening, which is their normal phone call. So the person thought it was a regular, and I heard people talking in the background.
Just in.
And so by the time I mentioned the person's name, it even took them a while. They were so quick to respond. A typical employer, doesn't know I'm going to call you.
It won't even go through because they're closed.
Do you understand? They're closed.
They're closed
for a start. Let's even give them, say maybe the employer is very, very, they work late night or whatever. You can't know everybody in your organization just from a phone call straight up, and you can give me all the information about them straight up, right? You probably want to say, can I put you on hold? And because I'm in HR, right, I have an understanding of the kind of information an employer will not want to divulge to you. They probably want to tell you, tell us what you have. We just want to verify to say yes or no. But we won't be the one giving you.
Because that's against privacy.
Yes. So you can tell us what you have. Right. And we're going to verify to say, okay, what you have
is correct.
Is correct.
Incorrect.
But they wouldn't give you any information about the person. And then it was kind of very... And this is someone I was already so empathetic with them already. I was already kind of like...
That's why I told you. That's why I told you I'm tougher now. I've learned the lesson. You can't be emotional with these things, yeah.
And I started looking at the other documents. Everything just started looking, it wasn't... I'm going to tell you what's going to shock you right now. What threw me off?
What?
The bank statement as well.
Yeah. They falsified the bank statement.
And I'm like... Just thank God I had to take it a step further to just beyond just believing the beautiful story that was put together,
right? And
just do some 1, 2, 3 due diligence. Or do you want to talk about the one that the employer doesn't even exist on social media?
So I don't think people would understand that this is a digital age. We can literally fact check those things, right? And if we can't find you online, then it's like a red flag already. Like if you say you work for ABC company, number one, your company is not on LinkedIn.
That already throws anybody off, any employer,
we Google the company. We can't find it on Google business profile. We can't even find the company on Zoom.info. There's nothing. We can't find you on LinkedIn. We can't find, and I get that people are, trying to, maybe not everyone is on social media, but at least we should be able to see something.
1 or 2 things.
I look at people's Facebook pages. I'm not trying to creep on people, but I check their Facebook page. I can just kind of like just look at your Facebook, just to see what's going on there, right? And we look at that to just make sure that, okay, you are who you say you are, because people say one thing and then you look at their pages and you see something else. For instance, you're applying on your rental application, and where it says, "Do you have any pets?" you say no, but then I go to your Facebook profile and I see you with 2 puppies, and I see you like
you warehouse, maybe you warehouse,
and I see you like one German Shepherd, one
Rottweiler,
and just smiling. I'm like, I'm that's fine. I love dogs as well, but on your rental application, you said you had no pets. So now it's an integrity problem.
Maybe it's not for them. Maybe it's for a friend.
You said you had no pets.
No, it's for a friend. They went to visit a friend. They took the picture.
When you have multiple pictures with pets, like you own pets
consistently,
like we can see you have pets, right? So
and I feel like honestly, don't blame us. Don't blame landlord. This is a call. To the landlord tenants board to do better, right? So that landlord doesn't get, so that they don't get too finicky with people.
Yeah.
And they could just...
landlords are already finicky with people.
Because people have had... we can go on and on and on.
So many stories,
talk about a lot of it. Maybe we want to touch on something a little bit. What are the tips you want to give to, someone looking to rent?
Like a tenant?
Yeah, a tenant looking to rent. I'll probably talk about the landlord. Maybe the tips you want to give to anyone,
So I'll say my number one thing, I think I appreciate when tenants are just upfront.
Yeah.
Like if there's an issue with your profile and just state it upfront. Just be honest. Your credit is at 530 or 54. You have bad credit. I'd rather you come up. I tell tenants every time, if you have a bad story, just let me know everything.
So I know what I'm working with.
Exactly. So I'm armed with the information I have. Because there are people that we've gotten, this now. We've rented properties for people where the person is new to the country.
Absolutely, new immigrants.
And maybe their income is still from another country. I was still able to, because we just need all the information that you have. we go with that and we find a match. Obviously, that profile might not work for every tenant,
Yep.
every landlord.
Every landlord.
But you might find that one landlord. Because we've had profiles where someone's coming new to the country, we took all their information, all of their income was from a country in West Africa.
A different country, yeah.
Right, and we presented everything to the landlord. And even the landlord's agents were surprised that the landlord said yes. Because we just give them so much information up front and we package the information in a way where they could tell that, okay, this is coming from a very forthcoming and trustworthy person. So just be upfront if you're a tenant. There's no need to falsify documents. There's no need to lie. There's no need to because those things can get you in a lot of trouble.
And I think, to be honest, like, it saves us as well, right? Because we don't want to get caught up in the middle, or probably the other agent is the one spotting these things,
right?
And then we can't defend you at that time anymore.
Yes.
Even for me as a person,
Yes.
right? I mean, for you not to be honest to me at that point, I'm not going to stand up for you again. Because also, even though I'm working with you, I also have my integrity at stake. There's no amount of dollar that is worth my integrity, to drop the ball or to drag it in the mud. So it's better to just be very upfront. Trust your client. I mean, trust your agent, right? That they can just be honest with them. It's either they'll tell you it's going to work, it's not going to work.
Not going to work, yeah.
And they'll give you a strategy.
That works.
Yeah,
exactly.
a strategy as to what, because you have to live somewhere anyways. You're not going to live on the street, right?
Right.
So it's just to be able to create that, what is the right thing that works for you. Because again, for us, we can tell the kind of landlord we're working with. By the time you speak to an agent, or probably you see a profile and tell you that we're looking for an triple A plus client.
Triple A,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it already, when I look at your profile, I can tell as a person.
Yeah, triple C.
If you're
sorry. I'm sorry.
We can tell, and that's the honest truth, right? Because we are going to be the one, we understand the market, we understand our fellow agents.
Right.
We understand the psychology, the way they think, the way they perceive things. That's why you find most time when an agent calls you, the first thing they're telling you is trying to tell you about the profile of their client.
Right.
Telling you, my client, works here, they've been in Canada for the past 700 years,
years.
Just because they want to give you a first impression, right? So if I can do that for you, or if I do that for you and the agent figure that is wrong, it's a tell on me. Probably I haven't done a good job.
Right.
Or probably I know.
And
I'm trying to conceal some information, right? And again, I mean, I don't want to get into that kind of, stuff in my business.
It's really not necessary. I think with just so tenants, the takeaway is please just be upfront, be honest. Give us all that you have and let's work with that and see what we can do with the information that you're giving us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what does he want to share to help people? I think for me, I want to tell people is as much as you know your agent would have, gone through all the documents, try and read yourself. I know people don't like reading.
When you say documents, are you referring to
the terms of agreement, the tenancy agreement?
Okay.
Be very, very conversant with it.
Right.
Because, for example, I mean, if it's going to be a month, if it's like a fixed kind of rent, you want to know. Because sometimes people get into a house in the middle of the month. Right? And then the middle of the month is what the rent is set for.
Right.
I mean, in some cases, we just prorate that month and then reset it back to every first day of the month. But in some instances, we keep it as the middle of the month, right? So you want to know, so you can be able to plan and be sure that your rent is coming, in the middle of the month. You need to know. You need to know. Right. And you also, and I said the reason why I also think it's very good for you to read is because there might be fine print of the terms. Even though we've said that, how do you enforce those clauses? You'd be amazed that those things are sometimes enforceable. Right, if the landlord chooses to go all the way to say you sign, depending on the circumstance of what has happened, they might decide to go ahead. And the beautiful thing, like we've always said in our first episode, I remember, is the fact that what you're getting into is a legal document.
It is. It's binding.
It's binding. I mean, if a tenant, if a landlord chooses to go all the way,
you can take it to a small claims court.
And it's binding. To be honest, right? And I think there's a way that it could also impact your history. I think there's a platform where
now that's happening now. So because tenants in Ontario landlords in Ontario have been so burnt, now there are platforms, there are free platforms that landlords basically created to kind of like protect themselves, where if you're a bad tenant, they can actually
they took laws into their own hands
because they're like the tribunal is not answering us.
So let's create a system for ourselves.
Yeah, so they put this website, they can literally put your name to say, okay, this tenant did this and this and this to my property. So you do not want to be blacklisted, because how do you ever get a property? And not every landlord knows about that website, but still, those things exist now. And even now, the government instituted whereby on your credit report now, you can start there's a means to start reporting rental payments on your credit report.
Late payment or default payment.
So that's good for people that are great with their rent and they're always on time and stuff like that. But if it's the opposite way, that's also not good. So there's that as well.
Yeah. And I think for me, as I always tell people to just, like, think about it this way. Someday you also want to be a landlord,
Exactly.
right? What's the kind of experience you've created for someone else, right?
You
Again,
report yourself.
I mean, things happen beyond your control, right? But you could have people have a good relationship with their landlord, and they could talk about these things. You know, to say, "Oh, this is what is happening to me right now. Give me some time." You might be very lucky to find the landlord that probably they've paid off the mortgage of the house,
Right.
right? And they just want to be very empathetic and understand the situation. Just get into another agreement with you as to how you want to pay the rent or when you want to move out. You know, some people can be that nice.
Like, when I was a great tenant. And I'm not saying it just to say because I'm an agent. I was actually a great tenant. I was so great a tenant that when I was moving out, the landlord was like, "Oh, my brother has a house.
Wow.
Here. Would you want?" Okay, yes. Actually, no, the brother told me because he had like every time they would have like a party or something,
Yeah.
they would invite me to come to the back and all that. It's like, "Oh, I have a house here. Do you want to come to my?" So that's how you know you're a great tenant. When landlords are more fighting for you to say, "Okay, come to my house." So I think that's just, I mean, why not? This is someone else's property. Just the principle from a Christian perspective, right? Like, you know, if you've not been faithful with little, how can you be faithful with much?
Yeah.
So just even that little room that you're renting or something, just create it like it's your own place.
Yeah.
Take care of it and
Yeah.
stuff. There's no
Yeah.
reason not to take care
Yeah.
of it. There's no,
Yeah, and sometimes
It's
you
your
know
own space.
when people fill those forms, they kind of feel like the most recent tenant, the most recent landlord is what we work with. I'm just giving you a cheat now. Unfortunately, we go all the way back
Right.
to two previous, landlords you've worked with, and why is because the last person might be looking to offload you. I mean, might be looking to just get
Like, please, let's just
get rid of you.
this guy
So
or
if you
get out
call,
of this
if we
house.
call that kind of person, probably going to say, "Oh, everything is fine,"
Great
because they
tenant.
just cannot wait. They can't stay one more day with you in the house. But we then go back and do like two other. If you've probably been here for a while, we call for like two other, landlords to really get an experience. Even as far as going back to the agents, that actually lease the property
Yes.
to see if the landlord had given some complaint or some feedback, because that would have impacted them as well.
Can I tell a funny
Yeah.
story? I think
You told me.
I told you this story. So, a tenant was trying to rent the property that we were listing, right? The property in Pickering that we're listing. Okay, so I'm like, the person looked great on
All the
paper,
document file.
everything. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do our due diligence process or whatever. Let me call the place she was renting before our own property, right? And but not just call the person, call the agent, because the property she rented before was an agent that leased out that property to her. So I call the agent and I say, okay, this person applied here. We're thinking of taking her to the landlord to accept this client. And all the agent said was, look, I don't want to say much because agents can also say much, right? But all I will say is this: if it was my property, I would not.
But they've said much already.
I'm like, what does that mean?
They said something strong in a very
So
short.
she gave me like a Morris code kind of thing. Like I was like, what does that even mean? It's like, oh, if it was my property, let's just say I wouldn't be comfortable giving it to her. I'm like, so what do you mean? She's like, oh no, that's what happened. And she just dropped the phone. I'm like, okay, so this is a red flag. We're like, what do we do? She looks good on paper, but this is what the agent is saying.
Yeah.
We had to decline that.
And the reason why you believe is because, like, I mean, you don't foresee any malice in that. Like, the agent doesn't have any reason to, like, say what is not.
Because they got paid. I mean,
yeah,
they did their own
they've
thing,
moved
right?
on. So probably their fingers got burnt.
Right.
Probably the landlord came and said,
This is
because the agent wants to keep you, for sure. They want to keep you. So you can be sure that for them to have, given that kind of remark, they really had their fair share of your triple C plus.
That's what I was like. This is so profound. Like, what does she do? Does she is she a drug dealer? Like, what's she doing here? I mean, we just stayed on the side of caution. Just like, you know what, Lau just said to go in a different direction with this.
So a question that people have always asked is, why are you taking post-dated checks? Like, is it like you want to go withdraw my money in the bank? Like, why are you asking me for post-dated checks?
So a post-dated check is almost like a way to guarantee payment.
Okay.
Pretty much. Because obviously by law, I don't think you're not allowed to write a check for someone for money that you don't have.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what law that falls under, but I'm pretty sure like you can be prosecuted or fined
under the financial law.
Yeah,
right?
for doing something like that. So basically, it's just a way of the landlord protecting themselves to say, okay, you know what, the rent for the entirety of the 1 year lease, assuming it's a 1 year lease, it's already covered, right? So that's the beauty of it, really. And also due to the fact that sometimes, if you're taking a 1 year lease, for instance, sometimes tenants can be very funny in the sense that you sign the 1 year lease, and then month 2, you're already coming to say,
Stories, right?
I want to move out, right?
So the landlord wants to secure at least that fixed period of the 1 year.
Exactly. And that's not to say things don't happen, but at least the landlord needs to have that protection, because what happens is, even if you stay in a property for like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, the property might not be the exact same in terms of the painting on the wall, things like that. So they've done all that preparation, cleaned the house, painted the walls, all for you to just come and damage it in 2 or 3 months, and they are moving out after 3 months. So they have to do all those things again. So if they don't have that assurance of the post-dated checks, then it's like they are caught in a bind, right? And the post-dated checks,
so does that mean
it's not
that
even legally binding
Yeah.
to collect post-dated checks. But the thing is that you can offer the landlord, but landlord can't even ask for it, but you can offer it to them.
Okay. So the landlord cannot ask for it.
It's just first and last.
Yeah. But we have the landlord that asks for it.
Because their property. I mean, if so, the thing is, Toronto is so competitive in terms of people that are looking for properties that if you don't want to give post-dated checks, someone else is willing to give post-dated checks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
it's
then
your
it
loss.
doesn't change. So does it mean they literally can't take that position to the bank except you default?
No, they can.
So that means they can use that as a monthly rent.
They can. So
Would that be an agreement between you guys?
yes. So on your lease agreement, on the standard Ontario lease agreement, when it comes to the line that speaks to, okay, how will your rent be paid?
Yeah.
So if it's e-transfer that is there, then the post-dated checks cannot be deposited, because you stated that you were paying by e-transfer, and you and the landlord both agreed to that. But if post-dated checks was stated, or if check is one of the means of payment for the rent, then they can deposit the check.
So which means it's kind of like a loan.
It just depends on what you agree on.
Agree on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
With
Because
the
I had a
landlord.
client that was worried and said that what the landlord after I moved out of the house, landlord go to the bank and scratching my we've agreed to use
Right.
interact transfer, right? But yet I still have to check for the landlord, right? So what if I move out and landlord then goes to the bank to start withdrawing my money? What's
Oh no! So you can easily go back against. You can go to the landlord for that now.
Yeah.
Like you can. What's what I'm looking for now? Number one, you can report the transaction this to your bank.
But you gave the check.
You give the check, but you also paid by e-transfer, right? And you can show, and there's that track.
So look at all that's going to have to happen. But the first question is, how do they have your check? You gave it to them, dated,
Yes.
right? And then it's going to be like, oh, I didn't give, I gave, I paid my rent. Just kind of be like a lend. So some people just don't want to get into all of that.
Right?
So
I think the key thing is just to agree as to what the mode of payment will be. And once you have that understanding, then you know for sure that, okay, this check should not be deposited. That's it. That's all.
Okay, great. I think it's been a nice conversation. I mean, just giving insight to people in terms of rent. I mean, there's a lot of questions people do ask, right?
Absolutely.
About rent. But again, I think the last for me for today is the fact that, again, what should I be looking out to rent? Looking at the market right now, right? So someone asked me yesterday, I mean, they're looking for a 2-bed.
Right.
And okay, let me chime in this. I don't know if it's just probably the way I searched, right? I couldn't find a lot of condos that are very, very cheap in Pickering. It feels like
it's the way the market
it feels like the condos in Pickering are more expensive than the condos on the west.
That's a possibility. Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. The reason for that is because I'd say in Pickering, Pickering is a very, very unique situation because the condos in Pickering are very, very close to the GO station.
Okay.
In Pickering. So people love that about Pickering.
So they're willing to pay the premium.
In particular. Because the condos are just like right there in Pickering City Center. And they're even building a lot more there
more, yeah.
So that's why. And that convenience from Pickering go to Union Station, I mean,
makes a lot of difference.
Exactly.
For people.
Exactly.
Yeah, because kind of like a trend I noticed.
Yeah, Pickering.
Like I was expecting that, it should be cheaper considering the fact that, it's on the eastern side and not many people want to live in condo here, but it kind of sounded like it was kind of very different.
Yeah.
It's kind of more expensive.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So, I mean, when renting property, it depends. We don't help people with this, but rooms, right? If you're a new student, just coming to the country, maybe you want to just get like a room in a shared space where you share like amenities like the kitchen, the bathroom. You can find that on Facebook Marketplace. You can find that on Kijiji. You can find that on where else? You may be able to find it on realtor.ca.
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, so that's for that. Next thing is basements, which people do not like. but it's the next affordable option. After just getting a room in the house. So let's say you just want your own privacy. So you might get the entire basement to yourself as well, right?
And I leased the basement to someone recently, and it was kind of very. I mean, it's still
nice ones as well.
It's still a basement, but it's kind of like above the ground.
Okay, so it's like a walkout basement.
Yeah, it's kind of very pretty cool. You know, really. I mean, trust me. I think I told you about that. I haven't seen that kind of basement like that.
That's a good one.
The living room is so big. You know, new everything. Not even. I mean, we made some requests that were willing to offer the internet.
Made that
like
nice.
Pretty much. So it was kind of close, and that kind of property is like they just want someone to be there.
Right.
It's not like they're waiting to get that to pay off their mortgage. Right?
Yeah. So I personally don't mind it, but so I guess people that are not too fond of being cold, exactly. They don't like basements, but I personally don't mind basements. Yeah. I mean, I lived in a basement, like 2 different basements, but so that's that. Then after the basement, then there's which people skip. They're apartment buildings.
Apartment buildings.
Now these are not condos. These are apartment buildings that are owned by all these institutional investors. Yeah. With these ones, these are the ones where you go to the building physically, and then you fill out like a rental application. Most of these ones do not work with agents. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. Yeah. They don't work with agents because they have like a
institutional rental.
Yeah, so they have somebody on site that can take your application and things like that. But the only issue with that is, with that one, is like hit or miss because 4 other people or 5 other people might be applying for the same apartment and they just choose one person and they give it to that person. There's no agents to speak on your behalf, or there's no negotiation with those guys. Their rent is their rent. So there's that. Then after that is our condos, where you most likely might have an agent on the other side as well. So agent to agent, which is what myself and Joe are doing, negotiating on your behalf with the other agent to see if your profile works for the other agents that's representing the landlord. And then there's getting houses as well, just regular townhouses or detached properties for larger families as well. So yeah, that's the journey for renters in Canada.
There's so much to say about rental, but unfortunately we have to go today.
Yes.
I mean, thank you so much for joining us today. Till we come your way next week, next time, any day, anytime. If you see me on the road, please walk up to me. Right? I don't feel there's no big boy here. I'm just on camera. There's nothing. I mean, he's a big man, so maybe walk up to me. If you walk up to me, you're already walking up to him anyways. Because we're together, right? So thank you so much for spending time with us to watch this podcast. Till we come your way next time, it's still your YRJ Podcast with Joe
and with Nasser. Take care, guys.
Take care, guys.